Hello, apostate congregation, and welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. Tonight, I want to talk about another book that this book really threw me for a loop, congregation. There's a lot of confirmations, there's a lot of shenanigans, there's a lot of a lot in this book. Okay, um, so welcome, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Um, Tonight, we're going to take a walk, apostates, through the streets of history. Okay. We're going to check out some oil lamps. We're going to, check out the oil lamp, look at the dust in the street, smell the cow manure. Okay. The horse poop, the troughs, all that stuff, right? Okay. So we're going to go in time. We're going to turn on to some John Hyde. We're going to tune into some Mormon history. And we're going to drop out of society for a while, and like I said, take a walk through the streets of history, congregation. Okay, so we are talking about John Hyde. All right, so who was John Hyde? John Hyde is the author. He wrote a book that is called Mormonism, Its Leaders and Designs. Okay, so this book comes out in 1857. All right, and what is his affiliation, right? So John Hyde is what you would call a dissenter. He was an English-born convert to early Mormonism. He was a missionary in the 1850s, primarily in the Pacific. Uh, Let me fix my camera here. It seems a little low there. All right, there we go. So primarily in the Pacific, he became disillusioned with the church, with the church's leadership, and several doctrines. Now, this is an 1857 congregation. Let's keep context here. What is happening in 1857? Okay, what is new? What's going on? What happened in 1852 congregation? Polygamy. Okay, the uh, 132 comes out, right? The story of Brigham. That story is actually in this book as well, about how Brigham post-date or uh, backdated the revelation. And this is an 1857 congregation, so this is another. He's there. This is the first-hand account. Okay, uh, he became, and several of the doctrines. So I wonder which doctrine he became disillusioned with, congregation. Why did he apostatize? That were big emphasize that several doctrines that were being emphasized at the time. Okay, polygamy is a big one. There's more though, right? You have to think this is a communistic society, right? So these people aren't, they're not jiving with it, So after leaving the church, Hyde began writing and lecturing about his experiences. Okay, so we're going to get into some good stuff, congregation. Towards the end, I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to do is talk about Hyde's book, and then at the end, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that I found while I was, reading it, and things were popping up, and just different things that interested me and coincided with other things and new things, and I'm bringing a lot of stuff to you, congregation. Okay, so Mormonism, Its Leaders and Designs, is the name of his book, published in 1857. This is the first-hand account, congregation. Understand that. This is the first-hand account, all right? Uh, and an examination of more. He examines Mormonism as he knows it in his day in 1857, right? So he starts writing this immediately after he withdraws from the church. Okay, it's the movement, right? It's yeah, the movement is a better word for it, right? At the time. So using his own experiences as a former missionary and a member, okay? So Hyde goes on to describe the church leadership, the church's leadership, structure, authority claimed by its presidents and apostles, and the doctrines and practices he is observing during the 1840s and 50s. Okay, uh, apostates. I want to stop right here because I forgot. Okay, I completely forgot. One of the commenters is who showed me this book. Okay, now I gotta say to the commenter, this book was crazy. This book was crazy. We had a little bit of a back and forth about the book, um, talked about some things, and I told you that I was going to bring you what I thought of the book, right? So stay to the end because that's where I'm going to talk about the things that I was talking to you about. So um, yeah, so this first little bit here is we're going to get through what the book is about, and then we'll get into some juicy stuff. Um, yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that because this book was crazy. I mean, so I'm going to go a little off script here. This book is really kind of disgusting in a lot of ways. Okay, because it tells you about the character of Brigham Young, right? And how just just horrible that guy is. I mean, that is just a horrible guy, right? And you know there's a lot of stuff in this book, right? And that's what gets me going about these old books like this. Is once you start reading them, they truly start confirming each other, right? Because they're telling you the same story. They're literally telling you the same story. Now, one thing you must take into consideration though when you are reading these old books, right, are the dates. Apostates, I pound on you all the time about dates, 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 dates. Okay, and this is a classic example. This presentation is going to lay that out. I'm going to spell that out for you. I'm going to give you a little taste of why that matters in this presentation, okay? And it's very, very important these days because there's a lot of things to consider. Okay, now when you're reading a book in the 1850s, okay, this book is written in 1857, congregation. Which version of the Book of Mormon do you think he's reading from? Come on. So whenever you hear this guy talk about the Book of Mormon, he is 100% not talking about the Book of Mormon that me and you know. We have never seen the 1840s edition Book of Mormon. That's going to be the edition he's talking about. Okay. So if you go back and watch my video, Are the Joseph Smith Papers a Fraud? Okay. We completely dissect the Book of Mormon, the Joseph Smith paper Book of Mormon. At best, that Book of Mormon in the Joseph Smith papers is at best a 1921 edition. And the reason I say that is because of the headings, right? Okay. There's no headings until 1921. So go to the Joseph Smith papers. Look at the Joseph Smith paper, Book of Mormon. You can see the headings and chapters and verses. Chapters and verses don't begin until 1873. Remember apostates, right? Okay. So now you have to take into consideration, we have literally never seen the Book of Mormon that this guy is talking about. And when he recites stuff out of that Book of Mormon, you clearly, just on its face, know that what he's saying is definitely not in the Book of Mormon that me and you know. Okay. But you have to understand, in this book, he recites a lot of Book of Mormon quotes and a lot of Doctrine and Covenants and a lot of stuff like that, page numbers. He's telling you, he's giving you descriptions of all this stuff, right? He is dissecting the Book of Mormon. Okay, so now you cannot say he got it wrong because of the amount of information that he's talking about. There's no way this guy got this wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? So you have to, there's things that you got to, context is so key when you are reading these old books, right? There's a lot of stuff that you have to think about. You can't just read it for face value for what it is, right? You have to think, okay, this is written in 1857, this book. Mormonism, its leaders and designs. So what's going on in 1857? Where are they at, right? What are they doing? What are the previous stories? What's the story he's telling, right? Because a lot of these stories originate, right? They all originate. They all originate somewhere. But apostates, on this channel, we have discovered that in 1830, this was the story. And everybody is writing books based on that story. In 1840, this is the story. So now everybody's writing books on what the old story was and now what the new story is. In 1850, now this is the story. So now everybody's writing books saying what the old two stories were and now what the new story is. 1860, same thing, 1870, and the story just evolves. Do you understand me, congregation? That is why Mormonism is such a tangled web of nonsensory BS, nonsensical BS. Hurry. All right, do you understand me, congregation? Is what I'm trying to say here, right? Okay, and we're going to get into it. I'm going to get into it. Okay, so written immediately after his withdrawal from the movement, using his own experiences. So thank you, commenter. Thank you. Sorry for the roundabout, long way around of saying thank you, but thank you, commenter. I really appreciated this book. Okay. So Hyde describes the church's leadership structure, the authority claimed by its presidents and apostles, and the doctrine and practices he's observing during the 1840s and 50s, during his stint in communism. Right. So Hyde organizes the book in, of course, chapters, so I'm going to give you a little summary of the chapter. I'm not going to name, because the chapters they're quite long in names, right? And they cover a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to kind of give you a one-liner that kind of describes everything about, what he's talking about, right? So this is the stuff that Hyde addresses, right? The rise of Mormonism under Joseph Smith, the succession of leadership after Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, Brigham Young's governing methods, right? And his tactics are just so, like, he is so mischievous and just like brutal and underhanded and I mean, this guy is literally a POS, in my opinion, right? And just like a straight scum of the earth is this guy Brigham Young, and he rules with a heavy, heavy hand. Let me tell you, okay. He talks about the social system surrounding the Utah settlement. So you got to remember, we're in 1857. Okay, Utah's still kind of a settlement, right? So what's around Utah? What's going on around Utah? That's what he talks about. He just talks a little bit about it though. Plural marriages as taught and practiced in the period, right? We're in 57. What happens in 52, congregation? Okay. All of you people out there that keep saying Joseph Smith was a polygamist, you should really stop. You really should stop, because these books, either they legit either say he was not a polygamist. I mean, these are critics. These are critics, dissenters, and they're saying Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy, that it's all made up by Brigham Young, that Brigham Young made up the entire thing. They're dissenters, congregation. Do you understand that? Critical writers. They call Joseph Smith everything you can think of: a whore, an idolater, an adulterer. I mean, you name it, they call it to him, but they never call him a polygamist. Never. They never call him a polygamist up until, I think, the first words that the first time the word polygamy is ever used in reference to Joseph Smith is in like 1845 or something like that. After he died. It's not even till after he died, congregation. Celestial marriage. Watch my videos on this stuff. And celestial marriage is not polygamy. Okay? Celestial marriage is not polygamy. Think baptism of the dead. That is celestial marriage. It's literally described. It's described in John Beadle's book. He describes it, congregation. It's described. He literally describes it. And he's not the only one. It's in this book too. He is literally telling you, this is in 1857, Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy. And he gives you the entire story about how Brigham Young backdates the thing. Right. Well, he doesn't give you that story. That's William Dixon that gives you that story. John Hyde gives you the story about how Brigham Young came up with the idea. Okay, this stuff is fascinating, and you people, I had a guy that wanted to debate me about George Washington's papers. Apostate congregation, how do you debate somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about? You've literally never read this stuff. So is it a debate or a schooling? Because you don't even know what you're talking about, right? Do you know here? I'm just gonna hold up a random book. Do you know what this book is about? Let's debate it. Let's debate it. Come on, debate it. Come on, debate it. Debate it. Debate it. What, you're afraid? You don't want to debate? Oh, you giving up? Oh, you give up? Oh, hey. Well, hey, first of all, I'm not going to debate you because I've never read the book. So how can I debate you if I have never read the book? I do not know what I'm talking about. So if I don't know what I'm talking about, why would I put myself out there like that? And this is what this guy is doing. I've read this book probably at least 5 times. At least 5 times. And that's not even just mentioning all the times I refer to it. And you want to debate me, and you have literally never read this book? And see, we are not, I'm using this book as an example. This is not what we're talking. I'm using it as an example. I mean, how dumb does that sound? How dumb do you sound? You seriously want to debate me over something you've never read? I mean, what a meatball. You're a legit meatball. Okay? If you read it, 100%. But you got to go read it, man. You can't just, I mean, who the F do you think you are, brother? I mean, you got some big cojones to just go on. I mean, not even with me, with just anybody, to just make that kind of a blatant statement with anybody for any book. You are truly a meatball. That's all I got to say about you, bro. You're lucky I didn't block you, because I was really starting to get irritated with you. And believe me, I got no problems with people like you. I have no problems blocking you. I have no problems. I will do it like that, my man. So I don't care. I don't have time for you. I'm not interested in you. And all I can say to you is go read this stuff, dude. If you think I'm wrong, go read the book. Just go read the book. Don't debate me. Why are you going to waste your time? Why are you going to waste your time debating me? The amount of preparation and stuff it would take for you to even do that, you could probably just read the book, and you wouldn't want to debate me anymore. Okay? So there's that, Mr. Debate Guy. It's just, you see, congregation, these are the kind of comments that I get, that commenters. It's hysterical. It makes me laugh. It really makes me laugh. I find it quite funny. And a lot of times these people think they're trolling me, but in a lot of ways I'm actually trolling them, because I'm totally onto them. Okay, I know what, you little Mormon boy with your hair comb, and you know I ain't got time, bro. Okay, just talking about this is wasting my time right now. That's how, like, unimportant you are to me. Okay, I literally cannot believe that you threw yourself out there like that. I'll debate. I'll do the best I can. Come on, man. I appreciate A for effort, dude. 100% A for effort. I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that. But just go read George Washington's farewell address, man, and you'll see secret societies. Okay, listen to the words, secret societies. I never said anything about Masonry that George Washington himself said. So don't take that stuff don't take my words out of context, bro. That's not what I said. And you know that. I told you. And you can watch the video. It's literally on the video. It's on video. It's on record. It's on recording. I never said that. I never said that. So, and so you're making up something that I said, and then you want to debate what I said that you made up. And you want me to debate you for making up something that I said. There's the marble in the tin can. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Okay. That's you, my man. Okay. Okay. Let's continue with this book, shall we? Because this is a really good book. And I didn't come on here to talk about this guy. All right. Anyways, let's move on. Forget that guy. Where was I? Okay, so Hyde is talking about plural marriages. He is talking about the organization and purpose of the Mormon endowments. Okay. And there's a really good quote. Check this quote out. On page 331, Hyde writes, I have received, I have, or on page 331, he writes, I have revealed the mysteries of your secret order. And that's all he says in the entire book. That's it. Do you see how subtle this stuff is? You got to pay attention, apostates. I keep telling you guys, you got to pay attention to these books. Okay. Okay. So now the political, the endowments. The purpose of the Mormon endowments, as he understood and reported it. The political ambitions he believed Mormon leaders were pursuing. Apostates, that right there, the political ambitions, that is the entire anti-Masonic situation, right? And it's in every single one of these books. Every one of these books, they are talking about how the political ambitions of the church, right? Think of, what was the purpose of the 33rd Scottish Rite Masons for creating the speculative institution of Masonry? What was it? To make you a Mason without you even knowing it, congregation, right? This all ties together. This all ties together. Okay? I'm telling you, speculative Masonry is Mormonism. Okay, the political ambitions he believed the Mormon leaders were pursuing. We should really be worried about that in modern day, today's world. Like seriously, we should take note of that because look at the church today. Look at what they're doing, right? Look at how they operate. Look at the way they are. Look at all this stuff, right? Take into the modern day church and all of the horrible shit that they do to people. These people are warning us about that, okay? The entire anti-Masonic movement was a warning about speculative Masonry and the political ambitions, okay? Hyde writes in the style of the 19th century literature, right? His wordings, right? That's why I say the wording, right? There's this lingua. The lingua of the day is in these books. That is not in the Joseph Smith papers. So for all you people out there that say, we know Joseph didn't speak like that. Well, how do you know? How do you know? Okay. In context of John Hyde's book, what is a wrestler? What's a wrestler? He says Joseph Smith was a wrestler. In context, what does that mean? Come on, congregation. Everybody knows. Everybody knows Joseph Smith was a wrestler. That story comes from this book. Did you know that? That story legitimately comes from this book. Apostate congregation, in context of John Hyde's book in 1857, what does it mean to be a wrestler? Are we talking grappling? Like, wrestling? No, we're not. We're talking about words. He was a wrestler, right? He gave orals. He was very good at giving oral speeches. He would go and preach. He was a wrestler, right? He would wrestle you down. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about a fighter grappling. He's not talking about that. All that shit comes later, decades later. Now he's a wrestler, like a fighter. But in John Hyde's book, he's a wrestler with words. In context, He says it twice, only twice. Only twice he says it in his book. That's it. 2 times he uses that phrase only twice in his book. And under no circumstances is he talking about fighting, grappling. He's talking about words. He wrestles with words. He's a wrestler. He'll take you down with his words, right? See how in the back alley we are? We're all in the back alley. This is what scholars, LDS scholars and LDS historians have done. They did this to us. The church institutes these stories, alters them. Faithful members, scholars, historians pick up the story, alter it, and change it. And I'm going to give you some evidence of that. I just did right there. Okay, but I'm going to give you even more evidence of that. Okay, do you see how in the back alley we are? The modern day story of Mormonism, just flat out on its face, is not true. It's flat not true. So every single historian that goes on these podcasts, every one of them, no fault to them because they don't know. They're telling you the reprinted story as fact. They're telling you the reprinted story as fact. Okay? And that is fact. And I'm going to prove it to you. Well, I just did with the wrestler. And if you don't believe me, it's legitimately in the book. So, and contextually speaking, he's talking about words. Okay? So the relationship between in his book he also talks about the relationship between church authority and civil authority in the Utah Territory, right? So the Utah Territory, we all know, right? The big conflicts, all that stuff. He gets into them, and they're not what you think, congregation. Not Mormonism in general is not what you think. It's not what any of us think or thought. It certainly is not what I thought. That's for damn sure, right? So, he is combining his personal observations with contemporary public reports and documents available in the 1850s, right? So he's giving you a lot of firsthand stories. He's giving you a lot of firsthand accounts. That's the cool thing about these dissenters, is they're spilling the beans. They're all spilling the beans. So if you want to get like raw stories, read the dissenter books. But you got to read the first editions. God, I cannot impress that enough because the church gets them and changes them. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you an example. This book is intended, this book is intended not as like a theological treaty, right? It's, he's spilling the beans. He's giving you everything. He's giving you the dirt on everybody. It's really fascinating, some of the stuff that he says in here, right? Like there's one part where he talks about how during during the discussions of Utah becoming a territory, they didn't have enough population, right? So the government was like, no, there's not enough people that live there for the amount of space that you're asking for, right? And this is in the book. So Hyde says that they would go around and name the cows and the chickens and the goats and count them in the census to make it so so their population meets the requirement. And it reminded me of my Bill Hickman episode about how nowhere does it ever name any of Hickman's children. And so it puts all of these families into question, right? Like who are these families? Where did they, who are these families? Because Bill Hickman himself never mentions children of any kind. Nobody ever mentions children for Bill Hickman. And even in this book, Bill Hickman's even mentioned in this book. And there's no children, right? And so but they're not the only ones, right? There's, the entire Smith family, right? There's no historical record, like civil records, historical civil records for any of these people. But there is for everybody else. Like, no shit, there is for everybody else, but not these select few. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And so, how many of those families today think that there's some prominent family of Mormonism and they're legitimately named after a goat or a chicken? I mean, it that sounds silly and kind of bad for me to say, but taking into consideration all of the BS that these people did, 100%, that would not surprise me whatsoever. Whatsoever, that would not surprise me. If there are people living today, right now, that think they are from some prominent Mormon family and they are literally, legitimately named after a goat or a chicken. It sounds silly, but it's in the book. It's in the book. So so this book is a warning, right? It's a warning to the American public, right? And what are all the anti-Masonic books? They're all warnings to the American public. Okay. So what about Hyde? So about what Hyde argued were the political and social implications of Mormon leadership in the West. That's his whole book, right? So now we're going to get dirty. We are going to get down and dirty right now. I just told you about Hyde's book. Now I'm going to tell you about things that crossed my mind when I read Hyde's book. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about Dr. Foster. Now I I've never heard of this. I've heard, okay, so Dr. Foster's in a lot of anti-Masonic books. Okay. He is very prevalent in anti-Masonic literature. Okay. And we are literally talking about the same guy. It's the same guy. Okay. So I already know about Dr. Foster. But what I did not know was the story of Mrs. Foster. Okay, so I'm I hear Dr. Foster's name, right? And I'm a names guy. I follow the names. So when I hear these crossover names from anti-Masonry to the Mormon world, uh, my ears pop up, right? So in Hyde's book, he prints a letter from Dr. Foster. Okay. I want you all to notice what this letter does not say. What this letter does not say. Okay. There is no Mrs. Foster in his letter. Okay, there is no Mrs. Foster. There is no Mrs. Foster in Dr. Foster's letter in John Hyde's book. Do I make myself clear on that? Do we all understand that? There is no Mrs. Foster in John. There is no Mrs. Foster in Dr. Foster's letter in John Hyde's book. Do we understand? Okay, now that that is pointed out and very clear, this is the source letter. This letter is the source. This book, John Hyde's book, is the source for this letter. Okay? Follow me, congregation. So this letter, right, is there's no Mrs. Foster. So everything that me and you today know about this letter in legit scholarship, this is legit scholarship. These are your degrees. This is your scholarship degree at work right here. These are your LDS historians right here. Okay? There is no Mrs. Foster. So I want you all to Google right now, Dr. Foster and Mrs. Foster. And Google that letter right now. Google it. I'll wait. I'll sit here and wait. There's going to be two prominent stories that pop up. One of them is Joseph Smith approaches her to be one of his polygamous wives, and she goes and tells her husband, and her husband gets mad and comes after Joseph and all that kind of stuff. That's one story. The other story is shit, I forgot the other story. Anyways, you can Google it. You're already looking at it. So these stories never happened. They're entirely made up. They are 100% made up. How can I say that? Because what's the source? John Hyde's book is the source for that letter. And there is no Mrs. Foster in Dr. Foster's letter. Okay, do I make my point on that? Okay. So legit, everything we know in scholarship about Mrs. Foster is 100% fabricated by the church. By the church. This is church history. This is legit church history. And we can verifiably prove it's completely fabricated. 100% fabricated. Anything related to Mrs. Foster is an absolute fabrication because John Hyde's book is the source. Okay? Okay, so Hyde only discusses Foster himself and his experiences with church leadership. There is no Mrs. Foster. Okay? This is source, you understand. Source. Okay? Decades later, authors, compilers, memoirists, meaning the church, get a hold of this. And they twist it and they completely change it and fabricate it. And me and you know nonetheless. So we're living our lives in this complete delirium of Mrs. Foster. And maybe some of you out there might look up to Mrs. Foster, or maybe some of you out there are just really into the story of Mrs. Foster. We'll come to find out it's all bullshit. It never happened. 100% never happened. Okay? Which takes me back to naming chickens and goats. So this is nothing new, right? These people will destroy your lives, and they don't give two shits about it one way or the other. As long as you pay your tithing, F you. Just pay your tithing, and it'll all work out in the end. It's so disgusting. This religion is so effing disgusting. It's sick. It's sick. Okay, so 100% Mrs. Foster's added to the story. They are they're attributing actions to her, statements that she said. There's entire books written about her. There is literally entire books written about Mrs. Foster that are based on this letter that never mentions her. Okay? Do you understand? Does that make sense to you? Am I the weird guy for thinking that? Am I the weird guy for thinking that's weird? I don't know. Like and subscribe to the channel if I am not the weird guy. If I'm not the weird guy here, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you know what, now that I've said that, if you don't like and subscribe to the channel, what am I going to do now? Wah, wah, wah. I'm going to take my ball and go home. Damn it. All right, let's continue, apostates. Like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's keep going. Statements and proposals. So they're attributing actions to her, to statements to her, and proposals to her. Joseph Smith comes on to her, and she goes, and that entire story is completely made up. It's a completely made up story to justify Joseph Smith polygamy. Do you understand me? To justify Joseph Smith's polygamy in one case, this is just one story, right? It's one of many, but it's a complete fraud. It's a total fraud. The story itself is a fraud, okay? That story is never in Hyde's book. It's never in Hyde's book. So drawing on Hyde's account of Dr. Foster, okay, these people, the church, they're okay. So I said that wrong. I said that wrong. So drawing on Hyde's account, the church is drawing on Hyde's account of Dr. Foster, but they're altering and embellishing it, right? They're creating it, right? They're creating a narrative. They're literally creating a narrative, right? And we busted them cold, just full on, right? The hand is in the cookie jar right here. So yeah, and it's widely circulated, it's widely known. This story is a popular story, and it legitimately never happened. Crazy, right? This is Mormon history. This is how I keep saying this on every episode. Mormon history is created. There is no Mormon history. Understand that. Okay? John C. Bennett. That's who we're up next. So Hyde talks about John C. Bennett, okay? And his book, right? Because remember, John C. Bennett's book comes out in 1842. Hyde's book comes out in 1857, right? So he's talking about John C. Bennett's book. Now, I talk about John C. Bennett all the time, congregation. And I tell you all the time that, you know, these, you have to get the first editions of these books, right? Okay, well, this is a classic example as to why. Okay. So John C. Bennett, right, he writes a book. It's called The History of the Saints, or An Expose of Joe Smith and Mormonism, 1842. Okay, it's published in 1842, Apostate Congregation. That date right there is so important because that's the first publication. Now, John C. Bennett dies, okay? Immediately after his death, this book is reprinted. Immediately after his death. The name is the same, the publication's the same, everything is the same, except for all the bad stuff, all the secret society stuff. The quote that I told you that was in on my last video, I said where John C. Bennett literally says Solomon Southwick's name. That name is removed. It's not in the later editions. Okay, why is that important though? Because all of your and my scholarship, we call scholarship, LDS scholarship, LDS historians, 100%, and you can Google this stuff, congregation. This is not me just making up random shit. You can legitimately look this up for yourself, okay? All, let me repeat that, all scholarship is based on the edition directly after his death. And guess who published that book? The church. The church did, congregation. And all of LDS scholarship as it pertains to John C. Bennett's book is based on the later edition, not this edition. But they will all say 1842. They will all say this shit. You can Google it and look it up. These words are not there in the later editions, right? They're not there. They have been removed. You can take these books and read them side by side. You can legit read them side by side. And you can see for yourself where stuff has been added. Entire sections have been added, taken out. And we have proved this yet again with the 1834 edition of Mormonism Unveiled. There's the 1870s. If you're reading about John D. Lee and the Mountain Meadow Massacre in the 1834 edition, you're in the wrong book, okay? The 1877 edition is the John D. Lee Mountain Meadow Massacre. Why? It's legit word for word. Word for word. But the 34 version, there's no John D. Lee. It hasn't happened yet. But guess what's altered in that book? All the affidavits. All those affidavits that are in the 1834 edition are completely altered in the 77 edition. And in the 77 edition, those are what all scholarship is on, are the 77 affidavits, not the 34 affidavits. Do you see how we're in the back alley? Do you see how they got us in the back alley? And their finger is so far up our backside, congregation, we forgot it was even there. We don't even know it's there. And they're up there just wiggling it like that, going like that, and we don't even know it. And we're just paying them. We're paying them. We're giving them money, donating to their channels, buying their books, and they're fucking full of shit. They are lying to us, congregation. Do you understand that? The people that are supposed to be telling us the truth are lying to us. And then they have the audacity to ask for donations. Buy my book. Buy my coffee mug. Do you understand what's happening here, congregation? This is an effing cult. We are in a cult. Okay? That's John C. Bennett's book. Later editions, they reprint. Compilations often alter, embellish, and expand. Clarifying. Because it's not clear what John C. Bennett legitimately said in his own book. Now, me personally, I have legit read the 1842 edition. I did not know there was other editions. Naturally, I knew that. But as far as it pertained to like a legitimate John C. Bennett book, I did not know there was considered legitimate John C. Bennett books other than the 1842 edition. But it turns out there's many, many. But the main one is the one that was right after his death. When he died, I think it was like 1873 or something like that. Dates matter, congregation, because now you can look at this and you can say, okay, well, Mrs. Foster, we have the source right there, the source, 1857. 1857, that's the source, the very first imprint ever of that letter. There's no Mrs. Foster, so we can date that. Okay, 1857. Now let's reverse engineer that, right? Okay, so who is writing about this after that? And what does it say? Well, here's the letter right here in its entirety. Okay, in its entirety, so you can read the letter. You can read what it says or what it doesn't say. And now you go look at scholarship and read what they say the letter says or what they say the letter doesn't say. It's all about what they say. How about what do you say, congregation? What the F do you say? Use your own brain. Don't let people think for you. Don't let people effing think for you. Use your own brain and read the letter. I know I'm going off on the letter, but I'm talking about in bulk, though. John C. Bennett, 1834, Mormonism Unveiled. And I'm not done yet, congregation. Okay? So, to understand how in the back alley we are, right? So, I want to end on this, congregation. When you read these old books, okay, John Hyde's book comes out in 1857. What version of the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants and the Joseph Smith Journal are these authors talking about, right? Because it's nothing that we have today. Whatever Joseph Smith Journal these authors are talking about absolutely is not the Joseph Smith, because they literally read. They read out of it and they tell you about it. And you can go to the Joseph Smith papers and none of that shit's there. They're reading out of it. Okay, they've got it in their hands. And this guy is not the only one that does that, right? So they're talking about a Book of Mormon and a set of Doctrine and Covenants that do not exist today. They do not exist. Go to my video, Are the Joseph Smith Papers a Fraud? And I totally dissect the Book of Mormon in the Joseph Smith Papers, right? There's no way that Book of Mormon is older than 1900. It's factually is not possible. Factually, that is not possible. And I use the book itself as evidence. The book itself is the evidence. Okay. So you have to keep into context this stuff, congregation. What year are we in? What's happening in that time frame? What in Mormon, I mean, when I say that, I mean like outside of the Mormon world, what's happening, right? Okay. And then you say, like, okay, well, inside the Mormon world, what's taking place? What kind of doctrines are being released? Okay, well, we can go to the Book of Mormon and we can say, okay, well, shit, man, Section 89, maybe, or whatever the case. Do you understand me? So we can reverse engineer all this stuff, right? And it's all through the literature. We're not using opinion. We're not using anything. It's all through the literature. This literature will take you places, congregation. If you want to know the truth of Mormonism, read these books. If you are a Mormon history nerd, you TBMs out there, if you want to know your history, read a book from a dissenter. Yeah, I'm being serious. They will give you the cold hard facts, just unadulterated. Here it is in your face, like it or not. This is what it is, and this is what happened to me, and that's what they're saying, right? It's fascinating stuff. Apostate congregation, that is all I have for you tonight. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are not monetized. We will never be monetized. Okay, so the only way you can help out the Mormon atheist is to subscribe, like the videos, watch them all the way through, share them with your friends. I'm really more interested that you read these books though, and tell a friend. I would very much like you to read the book or any book, a book. It doesn't matter. Read one of these anti-Mormon or anti-Masonic. If you want to get into the anti-Masonic, right here, man. This will blow your mind. Speculative Masonry and how it relates to Mormonism. Okay. So thank you, commenter, for turning me on to this book. This book led me down quite a few different rabbit holes, and it was pretty interesting. So thank you again. The book itself is a great, great book. John Hyde, we are honoring John Hyde on this episode. So praise John Hyde for writing this stuff down and preserving it for us today to read, to get a little bit of a glimpse and insight of what real, true Mormon history is and how the cult of Mormonism has us in the back alley so bad. Even Mormon historians, even ex-Mormon historians, they're in the same boat. And I don't, like, in a lot of ways, I don't fault these people. I don't have anything against them. I don't hate nobody. I don't dislike anybody. I don't, all this stuff. I don't even know these people, okay? I'm saying strictly from hey, this is what you are writing. This is what you are going on these shows and saying, right? And everything that you cite is later. You're citing later sources, like decades later. You're not using the legit source. John Hyde, classic example, Mrs. Foster. Okay. How many podcasts have you watched and heard some kind of a story of Mrs. Foster in the polygamy world and things of this kind of stuff, right? And these are historians. These are PhD scholars. These are people with degrees. These are your degrees. These are your people with degrees. How can you have a degree? Okay, let me ask you, people with degrees. Legit. How can you have a degree and not go to the source? You are literally writing about history. You are legit writing about history. You podcasters are talking about history, but you're not going to the source. You're feeding everybody full of bullshit. You are literally lying to people and asking them for money. 100%. That's what you're doing. You should you should feel embarrassed. You should feel ashamed, uh, and all of these kinds of things, because none of you are using the source. And then you laugh at stuff like this. You laugh at it. You laugh at it. How many of you laughed at me? Every fucking one of you did. Okay, and now I can legitimately fucking prove it to you, right? One of you called me a conspiracy theorist. And how much of a conspiracy is that when it's literally out of the effing book? It's not my conspiracy. I didn't make this shit up. Your effing church did. Your church is the one that made this up. They are the conspiracy theorists, not me. I'm the one just reading the book and unraveling. I'm pulling the string. That's all I'm doing. I'm pulling the string. Pretty soon the whole thread's going to come undone. And we're already kind of there, because we just destroy scholars. Every episode, we destroy scholarship. We destroy scholarship on every single episode. There's your degrees, lady. Okay. I'm just a guy, and I'm schooling you hardcore. And so is the congregation, because they're reading these books too. And they see the stuff. They're putting these things together that you're not. And you're continuously going on these shows saying false information. It's just flat out on his face false information. So you should really stop. You should really stop. And that's my plea to the ex-Mormon world, is read these books. Follow the dates. Find out when Parley P. Pratt or Orson Hyde or Elijah Snow or whoever wrote whatever about whatever subject. They didn't just come up with that on their own. They're writing from somebody else's book. They're writing a response. Mormon history is a response. Mormon history is a response. Mormon history is a response. Am I repeating myself enough? Mormon history is a response. It is not legit history. It's a response. Okay? And then it gets turned into faithful. Now it's faithful, like Mrs. Foster. Like Mrs. Foster. Okay? Okay, congregation, that's enough. We're done. Like and subscribe. I'm just rambling. I could literally ramble for days like this, days and days and days. The people at my job hate it because they don't even want to talk about it, because I'll just go off. And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, dude, I don't effing care. It's funny. All right. Anyways, like and subscribe to the channel. We are not monetized. I just went through all that. Please, congregation, read these books. Pick one. Watch one of my videos. Pick one. Find something that interests you. Psalmonic Magic, Joseph Smith Jupiter Talisman, the Parchment Papers. All that stuff is all there. So let's go. Jump on the Starship. We got plenty of room. And apostates, in the words of the late, great Solomon Southwick, the ashes of Morgan will rise. And here we are, apostate congregation. The ashes of Morgan have risen, and we are here. We are reading these books. We are bringing this light, okay? We are showing, right, as the late, great David Bernard said, we are exposing the light on masonry, okay? Speculative masonry. Subscribe, congregation. Have a good night, and we will see you on the other side.